The Social Security Administration, or SSA, is facing a critical juncture. Severe administrative cuts are threatening the agency's ability to function effectively. These cuts are leading to potential delays in benefit payments for millions of Americans. The SSA's staff levels are approaching a 25-year low. This shortage of personnel further exacerbates the challenges faced by the agency. The situation is dire, and the consequences for millions of Americans are potentially catastrophic. The Trump administration, under the guise of the Department of Government Efficiency, has proposed significant cuts to the SSA. These cuts include the elimination of thousands of jobs and the potential closure of field offices across the country. The administration argues that these cuts are necessary to eliminate wasteful spending. However, critics argue that these cuts will cripple the SSA's ability to serve the American people. These cuts are already having a significant impact on the SSA's ability to process claims and provide timely assistance. Wait times for phone calls and in-person appointments have increased dramatically. The processing of disability claims has also slowed to a crawl. These delays can have devastating consequences for individuals who rely on Social Security benefits to make ends meet. The situation at the SSA is a crisis in the making. If these cuts are not reversed, the consequences for millions of Americans will be severe. It is imperative that Congress act now to provide the SSA with the resources it needs to continue serving the American people. For millions of American seniors, Social Security benefits are a lifeline. These benefits provide a vital safety net, ensuring that seniors can afford basic necessities such as housing, food, and health care. However, the recent cuts to the SSA are putting these benefits at risk. Delays in processing and potential reductions in benefits are causing widespread anxiety and hardship among the elderly population. Over 7 million Americans aged 65 and older rely on Social Security for at least 90% of their income. For these individuals, even a small delay in receiving their benefits can be devastating. A recent survey found that 42% of seniors would be unable to afford basic necessities if their Social Security benefits were delayed. The cuts to the SSA are already having a tangible impact on the lives of seniors. Many are reporting longer wait times to speak with SSA representatives both over the phone and in person. The processing of new applications and the handling of benefit adjustments are also experiencing significant delays. This bureaucratic slowdown is creating unnecessary stress and financial instability for seniors who depend on the timely arrival of their benefits. The potential consequences of these cuts are dire. Seniors may be forced to choose between paying for essential medications or putting food on the table. The inability to afford basic necessities can lead to a decline in physical and mental health, further compounding the challenges faced by this vulnerable population. The cuts to the Social Security Administration are having a particularly devastating impact on disabled individuals who rely on Social Security disability insurance and supplemental security income. These programs provide a critical lifeline for millions of Americans who are unable to work due to disability. However, the administrative cuts are creating significant barriers to accessing these essential benefits. Over 11 million disabled Americans under the age of 65 rely on SSDI and SSI. The application process for these programs is already notoriously complex and time-consuming. With the recent cuts to staffing and resources, the backlog of disability claims has grown exponentially. This means that disabled individuals are facing even longer wait times to receive the benefits they desperately need. For many disabled individuals, these benefits are their only source of income. Without them, they are unable to afford basic necessities such as housing, food, and medical care. The delays caused by the SSA cuts are pushing many disabled individuals into poverty and creating a humanitarian crisis. The Trump administration's justification for these cuts, that they are necessary to eliminate waste and fraud, rings hollow for those who are struggling to survive on meager disability benefits. The vast majority of SSDI and SSI recipients rely on these programs because they are genuinely unable to work. They deserve a system that treats them with dignity and provides them with the support they need to live with independence and security. The cuts to the Social Security Administration are having a ripple effect throughout the social safety net, impacting programs beyond just Social Security and disability benefits. One such program is the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, formerly known as food stamps. The SSA plays a crucial role in connecting low-income individuals and families with SNAP benefits. However, the recent cuts are hindering the agency's ability to perform this vital function. SSA staff often assist SSI recipients with applying for SNAP benefits. These individuals may face challenges navigating the application process due to disabilities or limited access to technology. The cuts to SSA staffing and resources mean that fewer individuals are available to provide this critical assistance. As a result, eligible individuals and families may not be receiving the food assistance they desperately need. The link between SSA cuts and reduced access to SNAP is particularly concerning given the rising rates of food insecurity in the United States. Millions of Americans struggle to put food on the table, and SNAP plays a vital role in alleviating hunger and malnutrition. Weakening the SSA's ability to connect individuals with SNAP benefits exacerbates this already pressing problem. The Trump administration's focus on cutting costs at the SSA is having unintended consequences for other essential social programs. By undermining the SSA's ability to connect vulnerable populations with SNAP benefits, the administration is contributing to a growing hunger crisis in the United States. Section 5. Elon Musk's controversial vision. At the helm of the Department of Government Efficiency, or DOGE, is Elon Musk, a figure as renowned for his technological innovations as he is for his controversial pronouncements. Tasked with streamlining government operations and reducing spending, Musk has set his sights on the Social Security Administration, implementing sweeping changes that have sparked outrage and concern across the political spectrum. Musk's vision for the SSA is driven by his belief that the current system is inefficient and unsustainable. He has publicly criticized Social Security as a Ponzi scheme and has advocated for radical changes, including raising the retirement age and reducing benefits. While he has denied plans to cut benefits outright, his focus on cost-cutting measures has done little to assuage the fears of millions of Americans who rely on Social Security. One of Musk's most controversial moves has been the implementation of new identification policies for accessing SSA services. These policies, which require in-person or online verification, have been criticized for disproportionately impacting older adults and rural populations who may lack access to technology or face mobility challenges. While some exemptions have been announced, the new policies have created confusion and anxiety among beneficiaries. Musk's leadership at DOGE has been marked by a data-driven approach that prioritizes efficiency over empathy. His efforts to modernize the SSA's technological infrastructure, while potentially beneficial in the long term, have been overshadowed by his apparent disregard for the human cost of his policies. His actions have raised serious questions about his commitment to protecting the most vulnerable members of society. The Social Security Administration has become a central battleground in the ongoing political war over the size and scope of government. The Trump administration, with its emphasis on reducing spending and shrinking the social safety net, has made the SSA a prime target for cuts. Democrats, on the other hand, have largely opposed these cuts, arguing that they will harm millions of Americans who rely on Social Security benefits. The Trump administration has repeatedly claimed that it will not cut Social Security benefits, instead focusing on eliminating wasteful spending. However, the administration's actions tell a different story. The proposed cuts to the SSA's budget and staffing levels will undoubtedly lead to delays in processing benefits and a reduction in the quality of service provided to beneficiaries. Democrats have accused the Trump administration of trying to dismantle Social Security through the back door by starving it of resources. They point to the administration's proposed budget cuts and its appointment of Elon Musk, a vocal critic of Social Security, to head DOGE as evidence of a concerted effort to undermine the program. The debate over Social Security cuts is likely to intensify in the coming months and years. With a growing number of Americans relying on Social Security benefits, the stakes are higher than ever. The outcome of this debate will have a profound impact on the lives of millions of Americans. The future of Social Security hangs in the balance as lawmakers debate a range of legislative proposals that could fundamentally alter the program. These proposals, largely driven by Republican lawmakers, aim to address the long-term solvency of Social Security by reducing benefits and raising the retirement age. These proposed changes have sparked outrage among Democrats and advocacy groups who argue that they will disproportionately harm low-income Americans and exacerbate income inequality. One of the most controversial proposals is to raise the retirement age for Social Security benefits. Proponents of this measure argue that it is necessary to account for increasing life expectancy and to ensure the program's long-term sustainability. However, opponents contend that it would disproportionately harm low-income workers who often have physically demanding jobs and shorter life expectancies. Another contentious proposal is to reduce the annual cost of living adjustments, or COLAs, for Social Security benefits. COLAs are designed to ensure that benefits keep pace with inflation. However, some lawmakers argue that the current formula for calculating COLAs is too generous and needs to be adjusted to reduce spending. Critics counter that reducing COLAs would erode the purchasing power of Social Security benefits, pushing more seniors into poverty. The debate over these legislative proposals highlights the deep partisan divide over the future of Social Security. While Republicans generally favor benefit cuts and structural changes to address the program's long-term solvency, Democrats largely oppose these measures, arguing that they will harm the most vulnerable Americans. The wave of cuts and policy changes at the Social Security Administration has not gone unchallenged. Lawsuits and legal challenges have emerged across the country as individuals and advocacy groups fight back against measures they argue are illegal and harmful. These legal battles, playing out in courtrooms and legislative chambers, underscore the high stakes of the fight over the future of Social Security. One notable legal victory came when a Maryland judge blocked DOGE's access to SSA databanks. The judge ruled that DOGE had failed to provide sufficient justification for accessing this sensitive data, raising concerns about privacy violations and potential misuse of information. This ruling represents a significant setback for Elon Musk's data-driven approach to overhauling the SSA. Other legal challenges are likely to follow as individuals experience disruptions in their benefits or encounter barriers to accessing SSA services. Lawsuits alleging discrimination based on age, disability, or geographic location are anticipated, particularly in response to the new identification policies implemented by DOGE. These legal battles highlight the importance of ensuring that any changes to the Social Security Administration are implemented in a lawful and equitable manner. The courts will play a crucial role in determining the legality of these changes and protecting the rights of Social Security beneficiaries. The Social Security Administration stands at a crossroads. The cuts, policy changes, and political battles surrounding the agency threaten to unravel the social safety net that millions of Americans rely on. It is imperative that we, as a nation, recognize the urgency of this moment and take action to protect Social Security for current and future generations. The first step is to demand accountability from our elected officials. Contact your representatives and senators and urge them to oppose cuts to the Social Security Administration. Demand that they prioritize the needs of seniors, disabled individuals, and working families over partisan agendas and ideological crusades. Second, support organizations that are fighting to protect Social Security. Numerous advocacy groups are working tirelessly to raise awareness about the threats facing Social Security and to mobilize support for policies that strengthen and expand the program. Finally, stay informed and engaged. The future of Social Security depends on an informed and engaged citizenry that is willing to hold its elected officials accountable. Educate yourself about the issues, engage in respectful dialogue, and make your voice heard. The time for complacency is over. The time for action is now.